is Jim Rizoli, representing Rizoli TV, and today I am in Toronto, and I'm going to be talking to Paul Fromm today. We're going to be talking about a lot of different issues, dealing with revisionism. We're going to be dealing, with where we are in the world today, why things are like they are, and maybe even come up with a solution. Now that would be a novel thing to do, wouldn't that be nice? Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Now, Paul, what I'd like to know from you, because I actually been watching your videos for years, and I remember when I first started getting into the the revisionist movement. Anyway, I really got into it with the Zundel videos. So, what I'd like to know from you, because you know him from way back, right? I mean, you go way back with him.
I probably first met him in about 1978. Yes, and I was fairly close to him on a number of occasions, and I pretty much did the public relations for him during his 2-year incarceration before he was deported from Canada under Canada's as a threat to Canada's national security, which is of course bogus. But so I know him quite well.
Okay, so before we'll get into that, though, what I'd like to know is a little bit about you, in your background. How you got into the movement that you're into now. So maybe you can explain to me, what your epiphany was, and got you to see what's going on here.
I don't really think I ever had an epiphany. I had a series of things that enlightened me more, but I was always anti-communist. My parents, I was born in Latin America. My parents were nearly killed by Fidel Castro. He got his start in the Bogota uprising of 1948, even though he was a Cuban. There was a communist against the government, and my parents got caught in the crossfire. No, they weren't hurt, but no, we never felt too good about communists.
So you were born there?
I was born in Colombia.
Oh, no kidding! Wow.
And I grew up in a very Catholic, anti-communist family. Mm-hmm. We were admirers of people like Cardinal Manzetti and so on. And so as I grew up, I became quite strongly anti-communist during a time when the Vietnam War, and there's a lot of pro-communist sentiment among the left in Canada. And so I got involved helped form a conservative group called the Edmund Burke, not John Birch, but Edmund Burke Society. Mm. And we were anti-communist with a few other issues as well. But so that was my start. But I was from the very beginning relatively plugged in about the Zionist role, the Jewish role. Some German immigrants were among my first people who said, "Well, you ought to come around here. Let's have a talk." They kind of befriended me after mm-hmm. they saw me getting politically active. So unlike a lot of my contemporaries, I was always very, very leery of the Zionist element, and able to understand what was going on perhaps a little bit better. So as the years went on, I began to concentrate on two big issues, and that was immigration, which Canada and the United States are being we are being ethnically cleansed on the installment plan. This isn't accidental; it is by plan from the top. In fact, both our countries changed their immigration policy in the same year, '65. Right.
But before we get into that, though, I want to know how you ended up in the United States.
But I didn't.
Huh?
I've never lived in the United States.
No. Oh, okay, so Canada, I should say. Okay. See, I'm still thinking, because I'm from the United States. So, okay. So how did you end up in Canada?
Well, my dad was in the oil business, so okay. I'm not Latin American. I'm a Canadian born abroad, and my parents were both Canadian. So I ended up in Canada because my father came back to Canada.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that was it. So basically, your dad and mom was from Canada.
Yeah.
They went down to.
Yeah. My dad was in the oil business.
Okay, so he went to South America.
Yeah.
You were born there.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. It's good to know. I didn't know that. See, this is good.
I'm a Canadian born abroad. I am not an immigrant.
Right. No. Well, that's what I'm saying to myself. He's talking about immigration, but he was born in South America.
I know.
All right. So you end up. What year did you come up back to Canada?
I was 3, so it was about 1953, I guess.
Oh, all right. Okay. All right.
So I've lived all my life in Canada, except for extensive periods of travel.
Okay, so you basically, in Canada, you went to school here.
Yes.
And you went, did you go to college or anything like that?
Yes.
Okay, so you did all that. All right, so now now we can get into the interest in the immigration.
Yes,
Okay,
so I had a lot of interest over the years, but for about the past 25, there've been two major issues: immigration and free speech.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to say, by way of a quick introduction, I have two issues: immigration and free speech.
Mm-hmm.
Too much immigration and not enough free speech.
Right, yeah.
Free speech is a huge issue throughout the Western world. And in the United States too. I think a lot of Americans are perhaps a little overconfident because of the First Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you've got the government officially can't take away your right to speak, but there are all sorts of ways to mess you up, as you well know from your own personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
Or Jared Taylor with meeting after meeting after meeting canceled. David Duke meeting after meeting
Mm-hmm.
canceled. So there are lots of ways to damage you, or people being fired for their political views. So yes, the government can pass laws to say to restrict your speech, but there are all sorts of other ways to restrict.
Okay, so so basically, in the 70s, I would think late 60s, you were dealing with immigration.
No, I didn't really start dealing with immigration until the 1980s.
Oh, the 80s.
See,
okay.
the law changed in '65,
Okay.
but there was not much obvious impact for about another 10 years.
Right.
We didn't have a million Africans in Canada the next year. It wasn't like
Right,
that.
right.
The changes came relatively slowly, but they've been escalating for the past 30, 35 years.
Okay. All right. So now I can understand why you got involved with Sunderland. Then.
Yeah.
Because basically it was more the free speech aspect than really maybe the topic.
Yeah, Zoma was entirely the free speech topic, and more, I'm of part German descent,
Okay.
and one of the things I think that got Ernst into the matter was many Germans of his generation looked to him as a leader. He was articulate, very successful, and they needed a voice, because once they invented Holocaust in the 1970s, now this might be my perception.
Mm-hmm.
Others might have a different one. I grew up where we had a lot of kids from other European countries, from Italy, Lithuania, Germany, Poland, Ukraine, and there was a lot of ethnic back and forth, but I sensed no real animosity. Germans were called Krauts, the Italians Dacos.
Mm-hmm.
The German kids would show you how to draw a swastika. Today they'd be expelled. They'd be thrown out of school.
Mm-hmm.
And back then there was, I sensed an acceptance. The war was the war. It was back then. Even though probably our parents or older brothers had actually fought. This is growing up in the 60s.
Right.
It's not until the late 70s,
Mm-hmm.
when we had the Holocaust, the new religion of Holocaust invented, that suddenly the anti-German spirit became. You would think Hitler was still in Berlin,
Yeah.
and it's never let up.
Right.
And so I became aware of that, and Ernst was doing most of the work, but I think a lot of other people began to think, well, we've got to do something to set the record straight.
Right.
And that, it was sort of a segue into revisionism.
Right. I just want to make a point. When I was a kid in the 60s, we used to go to school, and I'd be drawing Nazi signs with chalk on the ground. You know what I mean? If I did that today, I'd be arrested.
Oh, I remember a German kid named Giebert, and I drew a swastika in on my notebook. He said, no, that's wrong. He said, I had it backwards or something.
Oh, okay.
Well, today, the teacher would probably report you.
No, I know that. I'm just saying.
I know a young mother, maybe not that well advised, but her kid in grade 2 drew a swastika on her wrist. The teacher sent her home, essentially expelled her. Well, the mother put one on her wrist the next day in magic marker, so it couldn't be erased. And that was the beginning of a long, horrible process where she lost her kids.
Wow.
They were taken away from her.
Yeah.
Even the communists didn't do that.
No.
And so what was kids play back in the 60s ruins lives today.
Right, yeah.
It's so fanatical has this new religion taken over.
Right. In fact, in the United States, they'll take your kids away for something as stupid as that. Or if you bring a gun, a little play gun, then they investigate the family, and they'll say that the kid has issues with his family, and they'll take the kid away. I'm not saying it. I mean, it happens.
So a high school kid brings his shotgun to school to show his buddy in his truck. Vice principal walks by, and they have a conversation about duck hunting. And they go off to class. Everybody's happy. Today, kid brings a shotgun to school to show his buddy. The ATF school locked down. Kids hauled off to prison.
Right.
I mean, we have really lost it.
Yeah. I was really interested in the Zundel case because of the fact, again, it's a free speech issue, and so now, how did you get involved in it? I want to hear how that all happened.
Well, the Zundel case has many chapters to it, but he widely distributed the sort of, I guess you call it, magazine version of Did 6 Million Really Die? In the late 70s and early 80s, he distributed tens of thousands in Canada, made to mailing lists and so on. And this caused a tremendous uproar, as you may well imagine.
Yeah.
And the first thing they did, now it had nothing to do with this directly, but they just arbitrarily took away his mailing rights. And that meant he became an utter non-person. He could not receive or send mail. Well, he fought that through the courts and he got them back. The next thing they tried to do was they charged him under a very obscure law called the False News Law. And that was in 84. And he got a young attorney who would make his name for free speech, and this was Doug Christie. And they put up a fantastic fight. And he was convicted, and he appealed to the Court of Appeals, I think, and the appeal was sent back for another trial. The false news law was utter misapplication of justice. It was developed in the last century to prevent in a day when there wasn't very good communications, a speculator planting misleading news. For instance, if you could plant a story that there was a lot of wheat in England. Well, local farmers here, wheat farmers, would panic and sell cheap. So it was meant to prevent lies for manipulation and profit. It was never meant to talk about history. And the Crown basically argued that the position of Did 6 Million Really Die was false news. So then there was a second trial, and this time Ernst Zundel brought forth all sorts of expert witnesses. He had, I believe he had Forresson, he certainly had Fred Leuchter. He commissioned Leuchter to do the research in Auschwitz, and he had David Irving, whose key testimony was Germans were obsessed with records and with with memos and so on. Perhaps a joke, but you practically needed a written authorization to go to the washroom. Well, for something as immense as the killing of 6 million people, you'd think there would be a memo on that. You'd think there would be a paper trail. Well, Irving, who speaks extremely good German and is just an absolute mouse for the archives, I mean, that's where a lot of his research was. And early on, the diaries and the memoirs of participants, no mention of an order from Hitler. And the German army was not organized. I mean, it wasn't a group of mavericks, kind of doing their own thing. This is very, very structured. Well, where's the paper? Where's the order? Or even a hint that there was an order. Maybe the original got lost, but there must have been some reference to it, because you wouldn't be killing in an organized fashion millions and millions of people if the big guy didn't know about it.
Right.
So the second Zundel trial absolutely, at least in terms of the record, sunk the Holocaust boat.
Okay, now what? Now we know at that trial, I believe, they had their people they put on to
Yes.
defend it. So, or to say there was a Holocaust extermination thing. So, do you remember who they brought in?
No, because I wasn't there. I was still actually gainfully employed.
Okay.
But what we were doing, what we did do is help raise money.
Okay.
And spread the word. You know, inform people across, in the free speech circles what was going on.
Right.
This is really before the internet, so
Right.
you know, the people were wanting written reports. And
So the second trial was in '88, wasn't it?
second trial was in '88,
Yeah.
and they had witnesses. I think one was Raul Hilberg.
Yeah, Hilberg, I thought. And I thought they had Verba too. Didn't they have Verba?
Yeah, and I'm not sure whether it was Verba or Hilberg, but he actually said, and this was reported in the papers, that he could tell who was being, I guess it wouldn't be gassed, cremated on any given day by the color of the smoke. Now this always struck me as a version of a really old ethnic joke.
Right.
You know, you could tell who was by the color. I mean, is this guy for real? But he was an expert.
Yeah.
And nonetheless, Ernst was again convicted, appealed to the Court of Appeals, up to the Supreme Court, and in '92 the Supreme Court threw out the law.
Right.
So they had to dream up other ways to pursue.
But now I also heard too, and I know it's true, that these other expert witnesses never came back for that trial.
No, Doug Christie was not your typical lawyer. He was probably, I'm told, probably the best cross-examiner of his generation. And he had a very, not quite like a Southern lawyer, it wasn't like a slow talking, but he would have a way of putting you at your ease and getting you to repeat your story, and repeat your story again. And then he caught you in a lie, and then he unraveled it.
Yeah, he was good. Yeah.
And you know, these witnesses were clowns. And then, of course, now I'm not sure if this was the Zundel trial or the Imre Finta trial. He was a very, very low-level Hungarian policeman who the Jews decided to go after as a war criminal in Canada. Well, Doug Christie destroyed the war crimes law. He made such a hash of the witnesses. Because these people never, I don't think, like so many of the so-called, you know, survivors and witnesses, nobody's ever questioned their story. You know, over the years they've gotten bolder. Recently, some woman who escaped from Auschwitz when she was 3 years old. I mean, those Germans are just incompetent.
Right.
They can't even keep a kid. Anyway, she escaped from Auschwitz and lived with wolves.
I know, Fonseca. Yeah, Misha Fonseca, I think her name.
Well, it turns out she'd never been in Auschwitz,
Right,
and no wolf would have her, and it's all just
Right.
But the fact that even got past an editor, not as fiction or as a tall tale, but this is her eyewitness.
Right.
Well, Christie was no respecter of anybody.
Right.
If you're on the witness stand against my client, I'll question you, and I'll try to make sure that what you're saying is true. Well, you know, half of them couldn't remember their own name when he was through.
Yeah, wow. All right, so basically that in '92 it was thrown out.
Yes.
So now that law doesn't exist now in Canada. Right?
No, that's one law we got rid of.
Okay, so now, but I mean, I'm looking at this, but there's other issues now in Canada. I mean,
Yes.
I mean, it seems like it's gotten worse. I mean, has it gotten worse with their new laws now that they're making? I mean, you can't just go out and talk about this topic now, can you?
Well, you run a risk. That's the problem with censorship laws. You're never quite sure what's against the law. We have several laws. We have the so-called hate law, and that's willfully promoting hatred against a privileged group, like, you know, race, religion, sex, sexual orientation, and soon to come the transgendered.
Oh, we're doing that too.
Okay, Now there are defenses: truth, sincerely held religious belief, discussion of a matter that's in the public interest. The problem is all of those defenses are relatively hard to invoke. And one Christian pastor who put out literature against the use of high school classrooms for prayer rooms for Muslims, he called them a religion of warlike religion, a religion of terror. In fact, it happened just about 3 miles from where we're sitting. Pastor Harding was convicted, and despite the fact he raised the religious argument that these are my sincerely held Christian religious beliefs. Well, those protections are only for nice religions.
Right. Yeah.
That's not what the law says, but
right.
That's the way it was interpreted by a Jewish judge. And the pastor was a broken man. That conviction might not occur today. That's about 15 years ago. I mean, the atmosphere has changed. But the law, the purpose of the law isn't necessarily to fill the prisons with people. It's to intimidate people.
Right.
And Canadians have got the message.
Right.
Most Canadians wouldn't know the hate law if it bit them. They don't know the provisions, but they hear terms like, well, that's hate speech. Right. And then they think, hate speech, well, that could be against the law. I better shut up, or I better not be involved with that guy.
Right.
And so it's intimidation.
All right, so now, what's happening with you? I mean, you're not having smooth sailing here, right? I mean,
No.
You can't come to the United States, right?
No, well, I don't know. I don't know. It's not a pleasant situation. I probably visited the United States maybe 20 times a year for the last decade or more. Once a month to go and pick up my printing, and then various conferences, meetings, and so on, social gatherings. I have never had trouble with any level of the American police. I've never had an issue, never been arrested. You know, the ideal visitor, and I go home at the end.
So what do they get you?
Well, that's a good question. In June of last year, I was being invited to speak to the American Freedom Party conference outside of Bakersfield, and I was, for Canadians, you go through U.S. Customs and Immigration at the Canadian airport. So usually there's the primary inspection. You show your passport and your tickets. They ask you where you're going, how long you'll be there, and usually you get shuffled right off. Well, I got sent for secondary inspection. That's usually not a good sign. Even a primary inspection, I was dealing with a Mexican official. He said, where are you going? I said, this conference. Well, who's sponsoring it? I said, the American Freedom Party. Oh, they're white supremacists. I said, no, they're not really. What I was thinking is, well, even if they were, you have freedom of speech.
Right.
I mean, well, even if they were communists, so what? But you've got to be respectful of these people. So I'm sent on to secondary inspection. I'm dealing with another Mexican. And now he tells me...
Mexicans in Canada?
And I mean, well, he certainly didn't have an Anglo name. And then tells me, I'm proud of my Mexican heritage. Well, what am I supposed to say about that? Yeah. Well, good for you. Or, we've all got to be proud of something. Right. Or, no, I didn't say anything. But it was obviously the type of remark to provoke you. I thought highly unprofessional. Right. You're trying to determine whether I ought to be allowed into the United States. What is the purpose of that remark? I mean, you're not asking me anything about myself or what my... So, well, apparently how could I prove that I wasn't being paid? How do you prove a negative? And then...
well, what difference does that make, being paid?
Well, I'm not sure. If this was a regular thing, then I would probably need a business visa. Let's say I'm an entertainer,
right?
And I'm going to say be like Celine Dion and sing for 6 months in Las Vegas. I would have to get, I think, a visitor's visa for commercial purposes. Anyway, but I wasn't being paid, unfortunately. And then. Could I prove I had ties to Canada in the sense that I wouldn't be coming down there to live? There's another negative. So, okay, I said, fine. I now leave. I race back to Air Canada and say, listen, this is early in the morning. Can I fly to Los Angeles later today? Yeah, they got me a seat on the last plane of the day. Okay, I race back to my place, and I contact the director, the president of the American Freedom Party, an attorney from LA, William Johnson, and I tell him the problem. So he faxes me off a letter with all the details, where the conference is, what I'm going to be doing, and I'm not being paid for this. And so I get my income tax records, which show I'm actually earning money in Canada, my property tax to show that I own property. So I'm not coming down to the States to, sort of sneak across the Rio Grande and pick lettuce. I'm down there for, for 3 days and coming home. I have a home back here. So I race back to the airport with my new ticket, back to primary inspection. I know my jig's up. Immediately, he didn't even ask me any questions. Off to secondary inspection.
Oh,
so
okay.
Here I'm dealing with a big colored one.
Oh.
Now remember, I was told I needed my I needed some evidence I wasn't being paid. Well, I have that. Some evidence of ties to Canada. Well, that's my income tax and my property tax to show I own my house. She isn't even interested. She's now rifling through my suitcase. And I have some literature and books. And she had some flags. I'm sorry, I had some flags. That they were actually blood and honor flags. I would later be told they were Nazi flags. They weren't. But okay. Well, she tells an East Indian guy he needs a visa. So okay, I go to the East Indian fellow. He types out the paperwork. He's fairly sympathetic. He says, I said, well, can I get the visa tonight? Oh, no, you have to apply. Oh, where's the form? Oh, you have to apply online. I said, is that going to take a long time? It'll take a while. I thought, okay, well, there goes the trip to California. Eventually I had to apply for a visa. And so I got some advice from American lawyers, and nobody can figure this thing out. Most lawyers immigration's not their thing. But I did talk to 2 immigration lawyers, and they said, the Homeland Security has almost total power. You have to give them what they want. There's not much you can do. So, okay, I made my application. Although I checked under the U.S. law that what had been cited on my form, and I've been told that I wasn't admissible to the United States, as far as I could tell, because I didn't have an up-to-date visa, up-to-date passport. Well, my passport, I thought, this doesn't make sense. Anyway, I wanted to go to Freedom Palooza, which would be the next weekend, so I filed my application online and got an interview for the middle of July. Well, that wasn't going to be very helpful, so I got a priority interview, which if I'd been approved on the spot, I could still have made it. So at this priority interview, I got interviewed by another colored woman, and her first question, she said, well, you're applying for a visa? I said, yes, I'm not sure why, because I've been to the United States many, many times, never had any trouble. I said, in fact, I don't even understand the section of the law. Well, I mean, I understand it, but it didn't seem to apply to me. She says, oh, they just put that down because they didn't want you to come to the States. Oh, that's not law. So anyway, her questions to me were bizarre. She said, when did you immigrate from Germany?
Oh, jeez.
I said, well, I didn't. As my passport clearly says, I was born in Latin America. What rank did your father have in the German army?
When did you shave your mustache off?
If I weren't naive, I would think they were anti-German.
Oh my goodness.
So anyway, I said, well, my father didn't serve in the German army. My father was in the Royal Canadian Navy. That's this country, as a matter of fact. And my mother was a nurse in the Canadian Army. No connection with the German Army. But even if my father had been in the German Army, I was born 4 years after the war. How could this possibly affect me? Anyway, she then said, well, I'm approving your visa. I thought, yay, Freedom Palooza. But there has to be further investigation. So she handed me a form letter with some things circled. And I had to give all that information within 7 days by email. You never deal with a human being. It's all by email. So I walked away and, okay, I'm not going to make it to Freedom Palooza. I called the American lawyer again. He was flabbergasted. He said, well, they asked, for instance, all the numbers of all the passports I'd had, ever. Now, luckily I keep things. So I have that record. And then all the countries I'd visited in the last 15 years.
Wow.
But no, didn't say, did I have to itemize them like year by year, or how long I was there, or just a list of countries? It almost looked to me like the type of request that you're bound to fail.
Right.
So I had to kind of think of all the countries I'd visited, and there was probably only one that might be dicey.
But wouldn't they know that?
Who knows? Or are they trying to catch you in a lie? The only country I visited that might be dicey, I was in Syria for
Now
a day.
Here's a question I have. It seems to me that this was the case, but maybe not. It seems like they were sending you to these, Mexicans and blacks, like for you to have an argument with them or something.
I think they were trying to provoke me.
That's what I'm saying.
Into perhaps with all these questions about Germans in Germany, probably just completely lose my temper and go see Lyle or something.
This is just, it's comical.
But, and it's so unjust. I mean, is there something in the file that's just totally bogus?
Yeah.
Now, you say, well, why do you think they did this? No, see, I'm telling you what happened. Nobody ever said anything.
Right.
But what had happened earlier in June of 2015 was that Dylan Roof allegedly shot those 9 Negroes at a church. Roof claimed that he learned about black crime on the website of the Council of Conservative Citizens. Okay. I'm a director of the council. And there was a huge hate-on for the council. Roof never joined the council, as far as we know, never met anybody on the council, never attended a meeting, had never shown any interest in politics, had black friends, and suddenly goes from Mr. Apathetic to come and shoot. And even that wasn't very thought out. He comes in and talks about scripture for an hour and then starts shooting them. I think Alex Jones probably hit the nail on the head when he said Roof had been arrested a few months before this incident, and police had found yellow, I think it's yellow something, strips. He was taking a very powerful antipsychotic that has, antipsychotic that can have very unusual side effects. All of his behavior in and around the incident suggests somebody who is seriously unhinged.
Well, it seems like he was like a Manchurian candidate.
Or a Manchurian candidate. But we were, the council had nothing to do with Roof.
Right.
Have we do have a lot of stuff about black crime, but the implications, we got to change the law, change the lawmakers. It's not a matter of going and there's no suggestion of violence, not even nudge, wink, wink. That we can hardly be responsible for what some drug-addled individual does. Well, our helpful Zionist media in Canada had a big spread on me, complete with the Confederate flag, and I'm not ashamed of it.
I wear a shirt.
I'll pose with the Confederate flag any day. Yeah. But Canada's connection with a group that linked to shooter in Charleston. It's all linked connection. But what's the link? Exactly none.
Right.
I never met Roof.
Right.
The council never met Roof. Never counseled him. Never. There is no connection.
Right.
The guy is demented.
Right.
But anyway, it makes for it makes for some nice copy. Did they have that? My guess is they did, but they never asked me. They didn't even give me the chance to say, well, just ask me, well, the obvious. Are you a director of the council? Yes. Well, did you ever know this fellow? No, never met him, never heard of him until he was in the papers. That's what I think happened. Well, anyway, so I submitted all the necessary information, and I was told it would take about 3 months. That was at the end of June. By October, there was some places I wanted to go, so I wrote email them to find out what's happening. And I always got the same email back to the effect that we know waits are frustrating, but the processing does take a long time, so you're still under consideration. So every couple of months I'd write again, the same answer came back. Finally, I think it was in early June, I got a positive answer. It said they needed me to come down for another interview. I didn't know, is this good news or bad news? So I went to the interview. I think it was on the 27th of June, and as a strange thing, it wasn't an interview. I mean, it wasn't. But I did feel special. I got to go up to the window, and I passed in my form. And just like last year, they lost the file. Last year I had to run across the street and reapply at Staples. This time they couldn't figure. Well, we don't have any record of you. I said, well, here is the email that you sent me about my interview. Oh, more consultation. Okay, finally. Okay, you'll have to go and sit there. So they couldn't deal with me in a normal process. They had to get somebody else. Okay. This white woman comes out and she stands over me, and this is the interview. She gives me a piece of paper. It's pink. I was being close to Gay Pride week. I was totally honored. They're really in the spirit. So here's my pink piece of paper. On one side is English. On the other side is Urdu. I'm not bilingual. It's not that way. Anyway, okay, fine. So what does the English say? So she tells me, well, your business visa is being turned down. And the reason is I had not provided enough information to convince them that I intend to return to Canada. There's again trying to prove a negative. I mean, how much could I show a doctor's note saying that I'm needed back for an urgent lobotomy 2 weeks later?
But why were they giving you a business visa?
Because that's what I was told to apply for.
That seems kind of strange. I mean, that seems like the thing that was the hook to get you in trouble.
To waste my time.
Waste your time.
Anyway, because she says, but you can reapply. But provide more information. I thought, but I don't want a business visa. And then she said, but you know, you have a Canadian passport. You can go to any border entry into the United States and apply to come in, or seek to come in, and you'll be assessed on the spot. So where does that leave me? Did I waste an entire year? Was I sent on a wild goose chase for a visa I don't need and really don't want, and really doesn't apply to me because I'm not going down to the States to do business? So at some point in the near future, I will try to cross the border and see what happens.
But you did lose a ticket, right?
Oh yeah, I lost a ticket, and I've lost a number of opportunities. Or I do a lot of work with Pastor Tom Robb in Arkansas, and the Institute for Historical Review, and the council, and AMRAN.
Wow, I think that was the connection. Just they didn't want you, just dealing with all that.
That may be, in other words, probably the Southern Poverty Law Center has finally found somebody in Homeland Security to drop a dime. And so what I'm being told by an American lawyer is they're basically just jerking you around. Right. They say you need this, so you go through all the hoops, and time goes on and on, so they waste a year of your life. Well, then they say, well, of course you could go back down and try to cross. Oh, I will, and we'll see what happens.
Wow.
just like Ernst Sundel, that's not the story, that's just an episode. Wow. Tune in next week for the next.
Wow. I mean, that is just so sickening. Yeah. You know what I mean? All right, so what are you doing now? You had a magazine here. You want to show me?
Well, we've got all sorts of free speech issues that are on the go here, and one of them is this scrappy little Toronto community tabloid called Your Ward News, and it's satirical, and it is attacked all sorts of sacred cows like the Holocaust, the radical environmentalists, radical feminism, left-wing politicians. Did I mention radical feminists? Yeah. Lesbians. The editor calls the Zio-Marxists, and there's a lot of humor, and it's a lot of, well, it's like something satirical. It's a little bit over the top. They don't know how to handle this. The easy way would be just ignore it. But over the past 2 years, they've tried to get the publication charged under the hate law. The police are still investigating. They then tried to pressure the post office, which delivers it, to stop delivering it because it's racist, sexist, homophobic, anti-Semitic, blah blah blah, which shouldn't matter. They're one of the major opponents of free speech in Canada is a fellow named Richard Warman. Well, he's doing something or other. Nobody can quite figure out what in the Canadian military headquarters in Ottawa. But he has plenty of time to file lawsuits and complaints and so on. So he complains. He's got a complaint to the Canadian Human Rights Commission against the Canada Post on the basis that that they are exposing their workers to racism, sexism, homophobia, etc., etc. In my opinion, not if their workers don't read the mail.
Right.
They're supposed to deliver it, not read it. But anyway, that's one thing on the go. So we will be involved with that. But in the meantime, or after that, the cabinet minister in charge of Canada Post did the same thing to Your War News' editor and publisher as that was done to Ernst Zundel. She hit him with a temporary prohibition. He is not allowed to send or receive mail in Canada because she believes on reasonable grounds that Your War News has violated the hate law and the criminal libel law. The only problem is it's never been charged under in those sections. It's never been convicted. And what we see under with political correctness and the cultural Marxist regime now in place is an abandonment of English common law. And that's one of the problems with multiculturalism and immigration. You change the population, half of these geezers out there, English common law, what's that? Is that living with somebody? No, idiot. It's what governed our country. It's why you came to this country rather than the hell you left. But we have this quaint notion that you are, let's see, even I forget, innocent until proven guilty. Yeah, you're not supposed to be penalized until those little processes have. So Dr. Sears, who's the chief personality behind this, is in the process of taking this to court. But all of that takes time and takes money, and they rather than respecting freedom, they try to make the exercise of freedom so onerous that you're ground down, and eventually you give up. And
But here's a question, because I looked through that, and I mean it is vulgar. There's no doubt about it. But don't you feel bad that he's going to make you look bad because of the vulgarity in that?
We're simply defending his right to free speech.
No, and I understand that.
And I disagree with some of the stuff in there. I don't know if it's in this issue, but he wants to have. He wants to have a book burning of Marxist books. Well, I told him I don't agree with burning anything, even if it's just ceremony.
Right.
That leaves a bad taste. I don't believe in burning books. If you don't like a book, throw it.
But can't you see them doing that though? Against you? Or the Council of Conservative, what was it?
Council of Conservatives.
Okay, so now, again, how they rope you in, you might not believe that way, but, Paul Fromm is defending this guy who, has pornography on his magazine, you know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying, I'm just saying.
Well, that could be, I would consider that probably one of the lesser sins, but I think if the issue is the connection with Dylan Roof or the non-connection, that's far more serious from an American.
Oh no, I understand that. I mean, because I know it's just a free. He has I might not agree with it, but he has a right to say what he wants. But they always, pull you into something it might be bad. That guy's doing. A lot of people hate it. Then they pull you into it, and you might not even agree with it. But the guy has a right to say it. You see what I'm saying?
Well, this is the divide and conquer game I've seen them play, and maybe it goes back further, but. Back, let's say, to the Goldwater days. When Goldwater ran, the leftist liberal establishment wanted him to disavow, let's say, the Birch Society, the Klan, all sorts of people. Well, why should he disavow anybody? A politician is in the business of trying to get support. I don't care why people support me. I don't have to agree with them. All they are doing is voting for me. Goldwater, I don't think, handled that well. I think Trump was a lot better. I don't have to get into that argument. We're in the free speech business. It's a matter of defending their right to speak, or in this case to publish,
Right.
not the content.
No,
You know, some of the content is silly, some of it's pretty good, some of it's incomprehensible, but
Right.
that's their business.
All right, so that's that. Now, what are you doing up in Canada now? You have meetings and things, and you're very active here.
Well, yeah, we have meetings in a lot of major cities across Canada. We have a monthly meeting and have had since 1970.
What's the name of your group then?
Well, the meeting in Toronto is called the Alternative Forum.
Okay.
We have a free speech group, which is called Canadian Association for Free Expression, and an immigration reform group, which is called the Canada First Immigration Reform Committee. So depending on what's hot or current, I might be working more on free speech or more on immigration, depending on the week or month. For better or for worse, we have a lot of free speech issues to fight, and a lot of them have to do with setting the record straight for Germans. And a lot of people are being drawn to this because it's a matter of fairness. There's an interesting woman I met at the Arthur Topham trial, which is a trial under Canada's hate law, about his website, radicalpress.com. And she is of German descent. She, for much of her life, she was actually a candidate for the Green Party a number of times. She's a environmentalist, very much into health issues. Probably wouldn't necessarily see eye to eye with us on a number of things, but she's become more and more angry at what is happening to the reputation of Germans, and to the fact that the German people, and in fact all of us, are being victimized by the religion of Holocaust.
Right.
And so she's started speaking out, and she did a great video apologizing to her now dead mom for when growing up.
Oh, this is the woman with the pigtails.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no,
Monica Schaefer.
Okay, I watched the video the other day.
But and people like that are now, because of the internet, learning some of the things we're talking about, and are being drawn out to make their own statements, and I think that's very positive.
What's the name of that, Karen? What's the name of that group you go to at the school, at the college?
Oh, Studies in Propaganda.
You ever heard that about?
Yes.
Have you ever been to any of their meetings or go to the class or anything?
No, but I know the woman who is the instructor and the organizer.
So what's up with her?
Well, she's been doing this for years, and it pulls together an interesting group of people, exposing them to some of these alternative ideas. And
What's her name, Karen?
Sydney White.
Sydney White?
Sydney White.
I mean, I want that said so people can do a search.
Sydney White.
She's an investigative journalist.
Okay, all right. So you're familiar with it. That's good.
Yes.
All right. So I mean, they were just telling me about it, so I thought it was interesting.
One of the aims, that ties both freedom of speech, or one of the issues that ties freedom of speech and immigration, is the issue of guilt. And I have been nibbling around that, thinking about it, talking about it for probably 15 years. On the immigration issue, you can use facts, statistics to show an American or Canadian, immigration right now is not a good idea. Make the simplest case possible. Never mind who's coming. You've got in the United States about 6% unemployment. We've got 7% in most cases. These are wildly lowball, but okay, but those are the official numbers. I make it very simple. What is a newcomer going to do? Pedro, if he comes to the United States, may get a job. Hooray, he's got a job. Too bad for an American who remains unemployed. America loses. Other possibility, Pedro doesn't get a job. Well, because you're really a Christian nation, even though you're not going to let poor Pedro starve. He and his 7 kids and so on. You're not going to leave him in the gutter, so you've got to put him into public housing, you've got to give him welfare, blah, blah, blah. America loses. Now you tell me, is there any justification for immigration? There isn't.
Right.
Not as long as there's high unemployment. There are many other great arguments, but that's the simple one. Okay, we then run into a bit of a wall with a lot of fellow whites. Well, don't we owe them? Well, we're all immigrants. Well, actually, I'm not, but you probably aren't either. But and you see the guilt playing in. Well, we took the country from the Indians. Well, you feel that bad about it? Hey, you have your house deed there. I'll call up the local chief. You can sign it over now. Yeah, you feel that bad. Do something about it, but don't do it on my dime. So okay, white guilt is something we have to. And then in the free speech area, you'll say to people, it would be a better country if people could say what they believe and discuss and argue and not have to be coy about it. And sometimes through the conflict of ideas, we might actually get a resolution.
We'll call you back, Rosie? Okay.
That's not gonna hurt anything. We just cut it out.
So, we might actually get a resolution. But if we can't talk about things, or if we do say something, well, we fear being punished. And this is big in Canada on the whole homosexual issue. I mean, I've known people who've gone to jail for criticizing, expressing their biblical beliefs. Right. Anyway, that would strikes me as a reason. No, we don't have the right to call for criminal offense. I don't think I have the right to say, we don't like those people down there, and we shall take up baseball bats and we'll hit them. But I should have the right to say I think the transgenderism is a mental illness. Right. Without problems. But the problem with it, or the reaction sometimes is, well, words led to the Holocaust. Yeah. So we have to protect. Now the whole cultural Marxist thing is, the society is divided up into vulnerable minorities and then the exploitive whites. So you might get a bit of consideration if you're a white woman, but if you're a white man, you're just the white privilege and an exploiter and abuser. White women, they're almost as bad, and most others are vulnerable minorities. Well, that's the mindset. So one of the things I think we have to overcome and help people overcome is guilt, and that's a complicated thing. But in terms of Germany and Germans, I see it as a triangle with an up and a down. The up is to let people know the tremendous history and heritage of Germany and the culture. And on the other side, refute the lies. And of course, we keep coming back like a terrible hangover to the new religion of Holocaust. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of your interviews on Rizoli Radio have dealt with various aspects of it and various very learned and expert people. And I don't consider myself in that category. I've thought a lot about this, and I'm trying to think of people of my son's generation. Their father didn't fight in World War II. If they're like many, their grandfather didn't. It's a long way back. So why should they be bent double under the weight of this imposed guilt? But many people don't have the time to get into the minutiae, that as Fromm says, no holes, no Holocaust. The story is the National Socialists did away with 6 million. Okay. It didn't happen to Canadians or Americans, whatever it was. We, Canadians and Americans, didn't do it, whatever it was. And it didn't happen here, whatever it was. Here's a quarter. Call someone who cares. Why should we care? Why should you rearrange your life any more than you would because the Hutus massacred 1 million Tutsis in Rwanda.
Right.
Say, I mean, too bad. I mean, it's not a good thing. I mean, in a very cosmic general sense. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to build a monument in every city to the fallen Tutsis.
But you know what kind of bothers me? Here we have the Holocaust and all the people associated were in Europe. Yet they build a memorial in the United States. It's like, this has nothing to do with us.
And that's sick. And see, that's where the guilt comes in.
Yeah.
And I think I think one would handle it differently in Europe. I'm just suggesting a North American solution to help lift guilt from the shoulders of our sisters and brothers.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't see in the United States anyway any memorials to the American Indian. Not that I really care about that, but you know, is there any memorials to the blacks? Not that I care about that either. But you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. This suggests that we're in the realm of a religion.
Right.
Well, you know, in my view, a religion created for us to be held down.
Right.
The other easy way into debunking this religion is an assertion that where common knowledge comes in. And one of the articles of faith of the new religion is that this was the greatest crime in human history. So I would ask my guilty friend, well, would you agree that greatest would have to do with numbers? Or the most in some way? I think we can agree that it would have to do with that. Well, okay, well, so you're telling me it's 6 million, right? Okay, well, I'll accept that for the moment. It seems to me there were between 8 and 10 million Ukrainians deliberately starved to death by Stalin in 32-33 at the Holodomor.
Right.
Your religion's phony, bud.
Right.
Ooga booga is up on my mountain, and I'm not going to kneel to it anymore.
Right. And it's just like the Germans. How many of them suffered and died when they were in the camps? I mean, after the war, you know, they estimate between 10, 12 million Germans could have been killed. You know, through their truck, through coming here, or not coming here, but after getting out of their homes and things.
The expellees,
Yeah.
or you know, if the person sympathetic to the Third World, you throw around the figures, you know, what's 65 million killed by Mao of his own people.
Right, right.
So, you know, that article of faith quickly collapses. And then I would suggest, well, why are you being told stuff like that that's so obviously false? You think it might be to manipulate you? Why are they laying this stuff on you?
Right.
Well, to make you feel guilty. And that means you're easier to control. You know, we hear from time to time in the immigration argument in Canada that in the bad old days of the 1930s, there was a ship called the St. Louis, and they made a movie about this, the Voyage of the Damned, and it left Germany in the spring of 39, I think, and went to England. They didn't want them. Went to the United States. They didn't want them. They came to Canada, and our Prime Minister at the time was a man by the name of Mackenzie King, and he was a shrewd guy. So he turned to his Deputy Minister of Immigration, a fellow by the name of Frederick Blair, and he said, "Well, you give me some advice. So what do you think we should do?" Because the Jewish lobby was, you know, let them in, let them in. So Blair went away and came back. So he said, "Well, you depend on the vote in Quebec. I've talked to Ernest Lapointe, who is the chief member of your party in Quebec, and with 30% unemployment, this isn't going to fly, Mr. Prime Minister. I've talked to people in English Canada. You've got 20-25% unemployment." Well, King said, "Well, how many should we let in?" He said, "Mr. Prime Minister, none is too many." Now, of course, this is horrible. In fact, I consider the man a great patriot. You know, we had to take care of Canadians first.
Right.
But when the immigration argument comes up from time to time, And it did back in 1999 when we had a Jewish minister of immigration. There were half dozen old Chinese boats that were trying to sneak into Canada, and all claiming to be refugees. And she said, well, she was not going to keep them out. She said, remember the St. Louis. And you see, so the Holocaust guilt is even brought in there, you see, because we kept out the St. in 1939, and because of the Holocaust, we owe them. We owe others nothing.
Well, I would have said to her, or said to that comment, well, we should remember the St. Louis.
Oh yes.
Isn't that what we should do?
Then we were led by patriots.
Let's do it. Let's stop them.
Men like Frederick Blair and the Prime Minister at the time did the right thing. With 30% unemployment, we didn't need these people. And anyway, but it sneaks into almost every discussion, and it's a evil chattering monkey we have to get off our backs.
Well, we feel the same thing. I look at the Holocaust, it's like a wheel. It's a spoke in the middle. Everything comes off it. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. They say to me, "Well, what does the Holocaust have to do with this or this?" I say, "It had everything to do with it. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be here, here, and here." I mean, that's my opinion.
No, I think, unfortunately, it intrudes into almost every facet of or political discussion. Another thing that I try to point out to people, if it is a historical account, why is it illegal to question it in almost every country in Europe except perhaps England? Why? You know, why is it? For instance, you can take the view that George Washington was a lousy military commander. Some Americans may not appreciate that, but you're not going to go to jail. You're not going to lose a job. You know, and people will discuss or debate with you and say, no, you're wrong, and so on. You can't even get anybody to debate this new religion, and it comes down from on high. In fact, we know people like Bernie Farber, who's used to be a big noise with the Canadian Jewish Congress in Canada. They have a policy: they will not debate. Well, any alleged point of history that can't be discussed or debated, we're no longer talking of history. We're talking about, well, I call it a religion.
Right. It's a cult.
And if you don't believe, it's dungeon, fire, and sword.
Right.
Oh, they'll spare the fire probably.
Well, anyway, so we trudge along. Now we got the gay issue. You know, that's in the United States. That's been a big thing. We talked about it a little bit, but I know this is big in transgender issue is a big thing in the United States now. And so, again, another, free speech. I should have a right to say I don't like the lifestyle, I don't agree with it, I think they're crazy people. I mean, I should be able to say it. But, what are you going to do? I think that's going to be the next big thing.
Well, no, I see the so-called gay agenda. Transgender today, and it'll be legalized pedophilia tomorrow.
Right.
Well, within 10 years.
Yeah. Well, no, it's going that way. Yeah.
And in terms of the United States remaining a world power, this is Weimar on steroids.
Yeah.
You can't hold. My view, not all shared by all white nationalists, is that our two greatest enemies are Israel and China. And we will have China is aggressive, it's expanding, it's got 1.4 billion people, a lot of expendable bodies there, it's got ambitions, it wants to reclaim the area over which it once had hegemony, it's economically powerful, it's got a pretty good military, getting better all the time. We have to take those people seriously.
What do you think about what's going on with Putin? Do you think that's a big thing now? What? I mean, some people think he wants to have a war.
No, Putin doesn't want a war. Putin's a nationalist, I think, and I think he's on balance a good force. But in terms of China, what worries me is there will be conflict, and is America up to it? When you've got a nation that is through immigration is taking a tick every decade off its national IQ. You won't be able to be a first world country with a third world population, and whites will be a minority by 2041
Right.
unless something's done. Can America that has lost its moral vision survive? When you can't get the little thing, I mean the basic things right. Same-sex marriage. Well, with almost no exception, every religion on earth except weird fringes of the Christian religion, almost every race on earth, we can all agree on that. We've got that one down. A man and a woman, that's a marriage. Not two women, not two men, not a man and a goat. A man and a woman, that's marriage. When you don't get that right, now the transgendered, they're an oppressed minority. Sadly, they're freaks. They're misfits, or they're mentally ill.
Right.
But the effort that's being expended, special washrooms, Obama is now insisting in schools. You're going to have people who are allegedly transgendered look like males going into the girls' washroom. Many nasty teenage boys are going to say, I want to see Susie Q in the bathroom. I'm feeling like a woman today. I mean, this is madness. We can't get that right. Are we going to be able to get the issues of world power? I bet the military men in Peking are killing themselves, choking themselves on their wonton soup. These will be our opponents.
I know. Guys dressed up like girls coming to fight us.
They're beginning to feel that like they might win this one.
Oh, jeez, wow.
And I mean that is scary. That so powerful are the cultural Marxists in Canadian American society. They are wrecking our culture.
Well, I mean, I never really thought about that. I mean, the China problem.
Yeah.
But I can see that. Well, Paul, I think we covered a lot. We covered quite a bit. You did great. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to appreciate how diverse. I love that word. Don't you love that word? Diverse you are in views. Yeah, I hate that word. Don't you? Every time I see that word, I hate it. Diverse. What does that mean? Oh, non-white.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Some guy whose name I can't quite remember said something like, when I hear the word diverse, I reach for my handgun.
That's right. Well, anyway, I appreciate talking with you.
Well,
I mean, it's been a pleasure.
Great being on Rizoli
Rizoli
TV.
That's what it is, and we'll keep producing, and I'll get this up as quick as I can because this is my video, so I can do it quick. But again, Paul, thank you for being here, and I'm sure we'll see more of you. Thank you now. Take care.
The Eastern world, it is exploding, violence flaring, bullets loading.